let's move on to the next talk, which is emerging planetary nebula with 3D spiral patterns. Verónica, Lora. So please take it away, and there, I'll give you a 9-minute heads up. Make sure you're unmuted.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Okay, so hello, my name is Verónica Lora. And first of all, I want to thank the organizers, mainly Martín Guerrero, for letting me speak about our work in this conference. And as I mentioned, Martín Guerrero is one of the collaborators in this work. Also, now I'm forgetting the name, but Ramos Lario. And Isaac González Carvajal, which is my student now, and used to be the bachelor student of Jesus Toala. And I'm gonna mention here that I'm not, I'm new in this field. Usually I do galaxy evolution and alternatives to dark matter and all that stuff. So this is new, but it's really, really interesting and fantastic. And the responsible for me to be talking to you is Jesus Toala, my other collaborator. And of course, is Alejandro Esquivel as a part of the computational facilities. And I want to thank the previous speaker, Alejandro Raga, because he was my PhD advisor. Now he's giving me office and computer facilities, and he's letting me fool the disk with teras of ring simulations. Okay. So Antonio, before he showed this image of the first AGB star that was showing a ring and spiral pattern, and I'm not gonna stop because we already seen this image, but still is a beautiful image. So the first time in 2006, and there's other example of these spiral patterns around AGB stars. So here is overimposed the spiral, and we can see that it's clear how these structures emerge. So the spiral patterns around AGB stars are believed to be generated because we have a binary system. So as I say there, the formation of these 3D spiral structures are a consequence of having a binary system. And this is, so they were first predicted in the 99. So we have here the patterns into different projections. And moving a little bit, so first I was saying that we have the spiral structures, but there's also ring-like structures that are seen in planetary nebula. So here also I'm showing some examples, of course, being one of the most beautiful, at least for me, the NG6543 or the Cat's Eye Nebula. So it's clear that we have here, or the nebula presents these ring structures, and also in this other planetary nebula. So the question is, are ring-like structures in planetary nebula the remains of these spirals? So I'm gonna go to this work by Guerrero and collaborators in 2020, where they suggest that these ring-like structures in the halos of this planetary nebula, they have lost the spiral signature. And this could be because of photoionization, for example, a fast wind, or jets. So what is our work? Our work is to take this thing a little bit further and to study the formation of the planetary nebula in these 3D spiral patterns. We study first a spherical case, and then we study a second case where we have jets, and of course, AGB, a post-AGB phase. So just because also Antonio was talking about this before, we have this 3D spiral pattern that is formed from binaries. This is just an example. Don't pay attention to it's just in cells. It's just to make an example of this, of the creation of the spiral. So we took as an initial condition this spiral structure, and as I showed you before, from this work in the 99, we have XY projection, XZ projection, and 45 projection. The only difference between this and this is the binary period, is the only difference that we're seeing. And this, we're gonna take it as our initial condition. So we have a binary producing a spiral pattern. So we're doing 3D hydro simulations with the code Guacho, also developed by Esquivel, Raga, and collaborators in UNAM, in Instituto de Ciencias Nucleares. And here I let you with the parameters we use. I can go in the questions back if you want to see the exact quantities. So the first thing that we did is what happens if we have the simplest case, which is a spherical case. I have to mention that these spirals are created by a binary, which is in circular orbit, as I think you might guess because of the form of the spiral. And after we have the spiral, we have here number density, temperature, velocity, and pressure. And the difference between this figure and this figure is just the projection. Here we have XY and here we have XZ. And the time goes down here from 0 to 500 in both plots. So here we can see, so we take the spiral as an initial condition, and then we impose the post-AGB phase, which has a very high velocity, and it has a photoionization flux. This case is the same as the previous one. The only thing that is changing is the period of the binary. Even if this one is the most simple scenario, just an spherical expansion of the post-AGB, we already see some differences. And the only thing that is changing is the period of the spiral. Then after these simulations, we explore the possibility of having a jet. So in this case, it's very useful, this cartoon draw to understand what we're doing, at least for me. So we have a jet that has a precession angle. And here also, I leave you all the quantities that we were using. So we start with a spiral, and then we impose this jet that is precessing, and we let it evolve around 100 years, more or less that. And then we impose the post-AGB phase, like I was saying, with a high velocity and ionizing photon flux. So here are some of these models. We ran different models, mainly the difference that so the things that we vary were the velocity of the jet and in which time we impose the post-AGB phase. So in some simulations, we let the jet evolve a little bit further, and then we impose the post-AGB wind. So here you can see that is morphologically they're really different. Being one of the, so one that caught our eye, this one. I'm also showing density, temperature, velocity, and pressure. Now I'm showing the time evolution in this direction. Here I'm showing you so kind of synthetic observations, mainly is a render of a density. And we can see here are the
3 minutes, Vera.
The main parameters. And here is the spherical case. And then we have different morphologies that come just from mainly varying the period of the binary. So of course, because we were seeing this configuration here, it resembled for us NGC 6543. So we have the planetary nebula, and then we have the ring-like structure with the bow shocks here, and also we're seeing here some bow shocks, and these are emerging because of the interaction of the jet with the spiral. So there's two things, or two mainly, so the most important things that I want to tell you that we think that is very important is, one, that the binary period has huge consequences on the morphology of the planetary nebula, on how they're shaping the planetary nebula. And second one is that the spiral could be, the ring-like structure that we're seeing in this planetary nebula can be the spiral, the previous spiral that was formed before, and then it was erased the first 100 years. So with that, I finish. I thank you all, and I hope you stay most of everything healthy in these difficult times. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Yes, I agree. If somebody wants to raise their hands.
Bruce had something in the chat.
Yes, Bruce says, the rings that you showed on mature PNE are incredibly round with no clear ellipticity. Is there a selection effect that suppresses the detection of the elliptical rings that you find at inclinations of 45 degrees? That makes sense?
You see in the observation or in the simulations? I missed that. The question is in the simulations or in the observation?
No, I think it says the rings that you showed on mature PNE are incredibly round with no, I think he's thinking about the...
These ones?
Yeah, I believe.
Oh, in the observation. Well, I mean...
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So your pointer is pointing at elliptical rings, and I don't think
yes.
I've ever seen those. So why not? Why don't we see them?
The question is, why don't we see elliptical rings in planetary nebulae observationally? I think that's what Bruce is asking.
Ah, okay, I see. Well,
and ironically enough, I'm speaking to you from right inside one of those nebulae. Hi, very nice talk.
Okay, should I try to answer? Or?
If I may answer.
Yes, sure, go, Jesus.
I think in this paper that Gerardo presented in 2016, when we analyzed like 650 planetary nebulae, proto-planetary nebulae, there were some very few cases in which you could see these elliptical-like shapes around these objects. So there were just a few, but I agree this could be a selection effect because of projection.
Another thing that I want to add, if I may, I know that this is a question part in time, but one thing I want to say is that this work was not intended to reproduce any morphology. So it was a surprise, and it was very exciting to see how the period of the binary can give us a zoo of morphologies in planetary nebula. So I just wanted to say that.
If I could ask a question along those lines, for the image you're showing. So we see the outer, one or two rings, and then where I might have expected based on the period to see a third, as I go inward, looking at your model, you see an outer green ring and then an inner green ring, and then it turns blue. So is that blue arc there, is that the last part of what is appearing in green, or... I'm wondering what happens to the inner...
No, in this one, you have the spiral pattern, which is green here, and then you have the post-AGB, which is expanding. So is the shock that you are having of the, let's say, the cocoon of the post-AGB, just interacting with the previous spiral pattern that you had. So with that increasing the density.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Denise.
Well, I hope you can listen to me even though I'm not seeing
Yes,
the image.
we do.
The point is that I can imagine that the other parameter that it's important there to get this final, the morphology like the cat's eye, is that when you turn on the jet, no? Am I right, this?
If I just didn't listen to the last part.
Yeah, the point is that you said that you have the spiral pattern, and then later on, you turn on the jet. So I can imagine that it's another parameter, in addition of the period of the binary, is when you turn on the jet. So this will change a lot the final structure. I can imagine that is the point,
Well,
no?
not exactly when we turn, I mean, of course it could be. Just in our simulations, we'll just let all the domain be full from the spiral pattern. But yes, of course, if you're starting, you still have the interstellar medium, so the spiral is still not covering all your domain. And then you can start, of course you can do that. In our simulations, we didn't explore that, but yes, you're totally right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
There's some comments in the chat, but I'm going to hold those off until the discussion because we should probably move on.
Sure.